Here we are. I have no idea how this sounds or looks. That's part of the reason why I'm doing it right now, because I have serious connectivity issues in my house. So I don't know if I look like Tetris or not. We're going to check. We're running a bunch of diagnostics here. Big show tonight. Having our first episode of a brand new podcast launching on the From Us channel called Sinful Celluloid, based on writer, director, producer Christopher M. Jimenez's website of the same name. So he will be my co-host. We're doing the show together. We're going to be talking about Quentin Tarantino. It's called the Tarantino. It's happening tonight, probably around like 9 o'clock or something. So make sure you tune in. In the meantime, we have to talk about the Sex Pistols. Hey, what's going on, Amy? How are you? Welcome to the stream. Amy, tonight we have a big show. If you're a fan of Quentin Tarantino, not going to want to miss this. So we've done 2 episodes on the Sex Pistols drama beef that's unfolded. And I mean, we wouldn't be doing our diligence if we didn't come around and follow up on what's going on. What's going on, Rue Morgue? We got Chris in the house. All the regulars are here. Welcome, Chris. We're talking about the Sex Pistols. So it seems that there are some updates. Usually court cases, they drag out. They go on and on and on and on. But in this case, it seems that matters have been settled relatively quickly. And I'm kind of surprised. I thought this would take a long time. Just a quick recap of what has happened. There is Steve Jone. He put out a book called Lonely Boy. It's his biography about being in the Sex Pistols. It's a wonderful read. I highly recommend you all check it out. Okay, that's number one. Then Danny Boyle, phenomenal writer-director. I think he's more of a director. He's not really a writer. Danny Boyle, director, great director. I've seen just about every film he's ever done. He is doing a FX series, FX like the channel series, about the Sex Pistols called Pistol, and it's based on Steve Jones's book, Lonely Boy. Steve Jones, Paul Cook, and Glen Matlock do not get along with John Lydon, Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols. They have not toured for their 40th anniversary, which was back in 2016. You would think maybe that would be. Yes, Amy, that's right. Danny Boyle of 28 Days Later fame is doing this Sex Pistols limited series on FX. So definitely going to want to check that out. So that catches us up as to what has happened. Here is the update. I'm going to pull up the article here. Boom. John Lydon. I am seriously in a state of financial ruin. Now, I just want to say, as someone who has, experienced hard times in the sense of being unemployed, I am not one to laugh or gloat or look down on someone in a financial state of ruin. I just don't know how much I believe he's in a financial state of ruin. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to put that out there. Again, I am sympathetic and sensitive to those matters because I know what it's like to not know when your next dollar is going to come from in that kind of way. But I don't know if I'm a little skeptical about this. Lyden is hurting after losing his very dumb, I would agree, it was a very dumb legal battle against his former Sex Pistols bandmates. The lawsuit, and I don't know anything about law or suits or anything, but one thing that we do know is these things go on and on and on and take forever. It kind of blows my mind that so much money was spent in such a short period of time when, for anybody who doesn't know, John Lydon is married to his wife Nora, who's suffering right now. She suffers from dementia. He's her full-time caregiver, but she's an heiress. She's like royalty. She has old family wealth beyond measure. So the idea that in addition to John Lydon's Sex Pistols money and his public image limited money And all the money that he's done from being on TV and all the stuff that he does and all the tours that the Pistols did, the reunion tours, they netted millions of dollars. You're telling me he's in a state of financial ruin? I don't think I believe it. Unless there's something else going on, unless, John Lydon didn't make good investments, which we know is possible, is true. Chris says, my buddy's discharge, we're using 28 days later. Oh, to open their shows. That's cool. So I don't know. I just think I feel a little skeptical about this, but here's what's being said. Okay. Here's what's being said. Johnny Rotten Lyden is never so eloquent as when throwing himself a pity party. This I agree. Ren Graves, who wrote this article on September 14th, 2021 for Consequence Sound, really sort of takes Lyden to task. He doesn't like Lyden. I feel like Lyden is a very polarizing character. You either love Johnny Rotten or you don't like Johnny Rotten. There's no in between when it comes to this Joker. And he would be a great Joker. Could you imagine John Lydon as the Joker? He would be great. He almost feels like a Joker to a certain extent. But he's got a loyal fan base. People love John Lydon, truly. But yeah, I feel like that's what's happening. He's throwing himself a pity party. Now that his legally tenuous efforts to wring more money out of Danny Boyle's Sex Pistols miniseries has failed, the one-time frontman is scuppered. I don't know that word. That's a British word of some kind. Scuppered, brassic, and plain old fucked. Brassic. I've never heard that as well. Scupper is a sink like a ship that a ship that or a crew that has deliberately been sank. That's what a scupper is. And brassic means, my God, these are interesting words. Brassic is a British comedy drama television series. I don't know what that has to do with anything. And plain old fucked. And seriously in a state of financial ruin, according to his new interview with The Telegraph via Louder. I guess we're going to have to take a look at that as well. The limited series is called Pistol, and it's based on the book Lonely Boy, Tales from a Sex Pistol. We said that already, by the band's former guitarist, Steve Jones. Lydon's been making a stink about it since at least April, when he threatened to sue because of the disrespectful decision not to hire him as a consultant. When that didn't work, he attempted to block Sex Pistols music from appearing in the show, even though he and the rest of the band had previously agreed to make all such decisions by majority voting rules. It fell to Jones and former drummer Paul Cook to hit Lyden with the lawsuit after the judge confirmed that, yes, Lyden had indeed agreed to put such issues to a vote. His block on the music rights was summarily dismissed. So he had no footing to stand on right then and there because they had this agreement in place. So I don't think he's in a state of financial ruin. I think that's John Lydon just feeling sorry for himself and wanting to, sort of put that out there and be like, oh, woe is me, poor me, blah, 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 blah. It sounds like BS to me, man. Personally. That's just me. He initially wanted to be a consultant. Now, there's a bunch of different, you'll hear a bunch of different things like this and that. What's going on, Mr. Red? You'll hear a bunch of hearsay that John Lydon was a consultant or meant to be a consultant on the thing, and he got fired or he was kicked off because he was so, he himself was disrespectful. He calls it, he's upset because he isn't like the way he's portrayed in Lonely Boy, the way Steve Jones portrays him. And, again, I don't think Steve Jones has an agenda in that book with certain things. But in matters of Lyden, I thought he was very politically level in terms of there are several times where he celebrates Lydon's decision making for the good of the group, no matter what he feels about it. So I feel like he was even-handed with Lyden, and he took some pot shots when he could. But it doesn't come from it. I don't feel like Jones is lying in his book. I haven't read John Lydon's books. He's written a few, and he hasn't had very nice things to say about his bandmates in them as well. Although Steve Jones does address some of the things that Lyden brings up in his own book. So it's like, rap battle, but with books going back and forth, that kind of thing. So the case was dismissed. That doesn't sound like the case even went to trial. Why is he in financial ruin? That's such BS. This is great news for the other former Sex Pistols as well as Danny Boyle, punk fans generally, and anyone who believes in the rule of law. But on the other hand, Lyden really, really wanted the money. That, I think, might... But here's the thing. Did he really want money? I think he was more trying to protect his reputation and his place in the Sex Pistols, and was afraid how a TV show would alter history in a line... Not alter history, but reference, the account of Steve Jones basically saying that, look, Lyden wrote the lyrics and Lyden was a good frontman, but he didn't have anything to do with the music. This is where I think Steve Jones, I've said this in the previous episode, this is where, check out, we have 2 parts this is the third part of 3 parts. Steve Jones said in his book, he's all like, oh yeah, I really, if it wasn't for me, then Glen Matlock's stuff would have sounded too much like the Beatles, and that's what I contributed musically. I think we all know that these songs really exist because of Glen Matlock. Glen Matlock is the writer, he's the writer of those tunes. And even an honest guy like Steve Jones, I think Steve Jones is definitely, he's sober and humbled. Yeah, Steve Jones has a program. I won't get into what that means, but Steve Jones has a program. And the program, in order for it to be worked properly, is an honest program. So you have to imagine that on some level, Steve Jones is on the level. But I think in those matters, that's where his agenda shines through with the songwriting. But when it comes to other people's contributions, like, say, John Lydon's, I don't think he is exaggerating. I mean, does John Lydon even play any instruments? I don't think he does. I don't even think he plays guitar. So John Lydon doesn't want people to know that. John Lydon doesn't want people to really dwell on or know that, in fact, it was Sid Vicious that they were looking to audition for the Sex Pistols, not John Lydon. He was mistaken. They were in a gang called the Johns, and that's why they picked the wrong John. And eventually, Sid Vicious would get in the band partially for that reason, and partially because, Johnny Rotten wanted his friend in the band. He wanted, Paul Cook and Steve Jones are friends, and, John Rotten didn't get along with Glen Matlock. You know what I'm saying? So, it's all, there's all sorts of agendas at play here, and the agenda of Paul Cook and Steve Jones and Glen Matlock, they want to tell the story that's in Steve Jones' book, and they want to get paid for it. And so he's trying to block them from getting paid. What's really at stake here besides, there's a lot at stake, but what's really at stake are 2 big things. One, they're each going to receive a £5 million payday, Lyden included. So that's £20 million to license the Sex Pistols music. That's number one. That's the first thing on the line. And the second thing is the ginormous uptick in sales, the royalties that they're going to get from all of the Sex Pistols stuff that's going to sell. Now, the Sex Pistols only put out 1 album, but they've got a ton of material, demos and outtakes and box sets and things. All that stuff is going to sell. The merch is going to sell. Everything is going to see a boost in sales because of this project. So there is a lot of money at stake here. You know what I'm saying? And it's just kind of like, I think it's kind of rude of John Lydon to, sort of make an issue about it. By the way, how do I look? Do I look pixelated, or am I coming in clear, guys? Do I have is my picture crisp, or am I game, as someone said yesterday, that I look like a Game Boy? I'm curious to know. Let us read on. This is good news for the other former Sex Pistols. We said that as well as Danny Boyle, punk fans generally, and anyone who believes in the rule of law. But on the other hand, Lyden really, really wanted the money. If the courts won't help him out, maybe whining will do the trick. I've got no more savings, no more loans, no pensions. I've got nothing. I'm fucked. And I'm scuppered in so many different ways. He said in a new interview, I'm seriously in a state of financial ruin. How is that? How is my Johnny Rotten imitation? You don't look super clear, but better than yesterday. How about that? So I still don't look good. I'm still kind of pixelated. Kind of a bummer, though. The audio, yeah, as long as the audio is fine, that's what matters most. But listen, may not have the most pristine product or whatever you want to call this, the most pristine output, but I do have standards and I do want the picture and the audio to look good for you guys. Not that you need to stare at my mug all day. I'm just saying, as long as it's not too bad, that's what really counts. Because at the end of the day, it is just a talking head podcast, right? It's not, like watching a scripted video. Speaking of scripted videos, speaking of England, if anybody is a fan of the Beatles, I have a brand new Beatles video that is going to be dropping for my Patreons. If you are a Patreon, YouTube Casualty Patreon, keep your eyes peeled. That's already dropped on Patreon. And for YouTube memberships, you can sign up down below. It's more expensive, better to be a Patreon. That's going to be dropping very, very shortly. So if you're a fan of the Beatles and if you want to know why the Beatles were so lucky to have Ringo Starr as a drummer, an in-depth scripted video essay with B-roll and stuff, check that out. Moving on. By the way, I have been meaning to get to that November Coming Fire listening party. For those of you who like the Sam Hain listening series, I just have been so busy. We're going to get to that too. Keep your eyes peeled for Sam Hain. Maybe it'll probably come out on Sam Hain. I mean, we're so close to the date. It would be rather inappropriate not to release it on November 1st. So keep your eyes peeled for November Coming Fire as well. He added of the lawsuit, which again only came about because he illegally blocked the band's music rights. It's true. We have to take a look at when we're pointing fingers and looking at blame. Let's take a look at, he was the one who sued. No, Jones and Cook sued him because he illegally blocked it because of their voting system. So he was always going to lose, and he put himself in this position in the first place. This is what he says. This entire juggernaut of confusion has cost me millions. Such a hideous, nasty onslaught. I never expected Steve, Paul, and Glenn to be that evil. And we never even sat down and had a conversation about it. So he is just playing super, super victim on this issue here. I mean, it's like he can't even see how he brought this upon himself. And here he is pouting. Even if he did lose money, he's going to get it back. The payday off of this series is going to be insane. He is about to make £5 million. That's more money. So to go back to the reunion tour, in 6 months, they made $1.5 million total. That was net total for one of those reunion tours, right? They're going to each make 3.5 times that amount of money a piece. Oh yeah, Rue likes my impression. I feel like I can only do it. If I'm reading his stuff. Then I can actually do it. The problem as he sees it is not that he attempted to engage in a kind of music rights extortion, which is exactly what he did. The problem is that that pistol is going to premiere on FX, which is owned through a series of subsidiaries by the Walt Disney Company. This became Walt Disney Money versus Me. That was bad. Lyden complained, who do you think is going to win? Money talks, and John Rotten takes a walk. It's a strange, strange world we live in. The Sex Pistols have become the property of Mickey fucking Mouse. I mean, he's such a goof, dude. He's such a goof about this, man. He doesn't care about Walt Disney. He just wants to get. I mean, he's done all sorts of Discovery documentaries thing. You think that's punk or whatever you claim is punk? It's so stupid. Despite being less than truthful himself, Lyden accuses Jones and Cook of mendacity. What does mendacity mean? Let's look at that up. Untruthfulness. Steve Jones and Paul Cook both said they knew this legal action would destroy the band. Then why do it? They really are poison because they don't mind selling you a lie. I mean, the band was already destroyed. The band is destroyed because those guys can't get along. They can't get along. They don't like each other. And sometimes, as we know, it is possible to not like each other and make great music and make a lot of money doing it. Just look at Glenn and Jerry of the Misfits, man. Money, it's the McDonald's principle, man. Two countries that have a McDonald's, they're not going to attack each other. Money lubricates all woes, but not for the Sex Pistols. The tragedy of it all is that Lyden's wife, Nora, is suffering from Alzheimer's disease, which is so sad. And her care, is this him talking? And her care is undoubtedly expensive. In the hopes of a big payout, Lyden has cost himself a ton of money in legal fees, and that has added to the anxiety of an already stressful situation. So again, I'm not going to deny he probably spent money, but like, come on, dude. Like this dude, like John Lydon is filthy, stinking rich. I find it so hard to believe that he has lost so much money from just this one lawsuit. And we know that lawsuits can bankrupt people, but I don't know, man. I don't know. If anything happened to me, what could happen to Nora? He asked. Seeing as they've stolen all my money, it's a very serious problem. I'm going to have to work really hard to gain anything like fundamentally stable like a fundamentally stable environment to take care of my loved ones. This is what they've done to me. Thanks, boys. Well, pure martyr, victim, poor me mentality from John Lydon. I mean, come on, dude. Last month, Lyden warned that Pistol will distort the true history and legacy of the Sex Pistols. Those nostalgic for the days when Lyden wasn't a flea-infested Trump supporter should check out our 2021 Punk Week coverage, including the 30 best punk bands and the 50 best punk songs. If anything, the only thing that Pistol will probably distort is, it's going to come down to the performances. Well, the performances, because those guys have, and this is the problem that you have when you have biopics, it's so hard. It has to be the right combination of being able to act, being able to channel the person you're acting as, and actually physically looking like the person. It's not so easy. Let's just take a look. Let's see if there's anything here in this interview real quick. I'm going to try and see. Rue Morgue has made me feel really good about my impression of John Lydon. Hold on. Let me see if we can do it. Oh, it's locked. You gotta be kidding me. Boo. 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 We can't see it. Hold on. Oh, Fito sticks. You know what the problem is? When you think too much about what you're saying, then you can't talk like him. You can't talk like John Lydon. It's terrible. Hold on, let me find his here via louder. Let's see if it says anything in the louder. Slams evil Sex Pistols. Now this is just more. I'm seriously in a state of financial ruin. I've got no more savings, no more loans, no pensions. I've got nothing. I'm fucked. And I'm scuppered in so many different ways. There's you have to do a little bit of a lisp, kind of, and then you have to do the PH. The F instead of the PH. Ever get the feeling you've been cheated? So we're gonna see how if anything else comes from this. I'm very much looking forward to the Pistols biopic. I'm gonna be watching it. Perhaps we'll do a review. Somebody on the Facebook page started to get me thinking about Halloween. What are we going to do for Halloween, guys? And I'm thinking there's going to be a watch party of some kind. Maybe we'll do Night of Living Dead, some sort of commentary situation. Not on Halloween, of course, because Halloween is reserved for trick-or-treating. Got to trick-or-treat with the kids and yada, yada, yada. But maybe in the days leading up to Halloween, we're going to do some sort of watch party. I just got to figure out how to get by. I want to be able to watch what I want. I also don't want to get tagged for the whatever copyright stuff. So it's kind of hard. Got to figure out how to make it work to our advantage. But when we can, when we do, we'll do some sort of, hopefully some sort of live streaming situation. So again, the surmise, join us tonight because we're doing an epic conversation about Quentin Tarantino and his movies. I have a lot to say, lots of hot takes. There's definitely going to be arguing between Chris and I have such a feeling. Keep your eyes peeled for the Beatles thing. If you're into the Beatles, if you are fascinated by Ringo and what he brought to the Beatles, check out that video. If you're not a YouTube member, you're going to have to wait like a month. But if you're a YouTube member, it should drop really, really quick. And if you're a Patreon member, you can already watch it ad-free. And what's the last thing I wanted to tell you? I guess that's it. Oh, right. This was all about checking to see the quality of my stream. So I'm going to do that now. This was a quality control test broadcast. I put out like 4 friggin' videos today. Also, check out, we had a whole discussion. For anybody who watched Malignant, the new James Wan film, we had a long conversation. Hope Madden, myself, and George Wolfington of Mad Wolf. Those are friends out in Columbus, Ohio. They're making their first feature-length film. And I had them on to discuss their crowdsourced campaign, but we also got into Malignant and how polarizing it is and why it's good or why it's bad. So you're definitely going to want to check that out as well. That's enough. Look at that. Look at that. A half hour. See, that's what I want. I want all the streams to be this short. Why can't all the streams just be in and out, I feel like it could be from the moment that I thought this up to pressing the end stream button, it was like an hour, right? Like, it's kind of crazy. Okay, everybody. See you tonight. Peace and hair grease as always, because that's how we roll. Don't forget to subscribe.